Welcome once again to Conquering Retirement with the team from Northern Alliance Financial. Today I'm with financial advisors Jeremy Bernard, Derek Huot. I'm your host, Spike Spangle, and on today's program, we're going to talk about that one tool that most Americans use to get you to retirement. What would you guys say that one tool is?
Well, that would be your 401k. That would be that, there's some benefits to this, obviously. And one of the benefits is obviously tax deferral, okay? Mm-hmm. So, you let that accumulate and defer taxes until you take it out at a later date. One of the other benefits is matching contributions from your employer. That can be many different amounts. It just depends on the employer. Some may match the first 2%. Some may match the first 3, 4. I've seen up to 6, which is great. But, one of the things
Where's that 6 at? Are they hiring?
Yeah. Not often. But one of the things I often see is, folks that are contributing to get the match, but they're only going as high as the match. And they're really doing themselves a disservice because, listen, if you can afford to do it, you really should, because at some point in time, you will not be working. And if you don't have a pension, that's your pension.
Jeremy, seeing the same thing as well? Just folks say, hey, we've got a pension, or we've got this retirement plan, but let's just go to the match. That's a conversation I always seem to hear, and it just feels like you're leaving so much room for growth and compound interest on the table.
Yeah, for sure. And, if you do the mathematics on the whole situation, if you're only saving 3% of your income, and even if you work for 40 years, how in the world can you expect, even with compounding interest, for that to be enough for you to live on throughout the rest of your life? It's just kind of, I think, for the most part, in people's guts, they just kind of know 3%. It's good. It's not nothing, especially with the company match. But it's never going to. There's no way, likely anyway, that is going to carry you to the finish line through retirement.
I know there's a lot of laws that have been put in place, like now automatic enrollment, wanting to make sure that your employees participate as much as possible. I know that they offer education. I know they offer online seminars, sometimes even classes at wherever you work. I just feel like there's so much of our retirement in our 20s, 30s, and 40s that's put on ourselves. I want to ask you guys from your seats, seeing people come in, how is this savings experiment going for people with their own 401ks? Are we on par? Are we behind? What does it look like to you, Dan?
We're certainly behind. And when you look at the numbers, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but what the average amount saved by somebody at the age of 60. But I just remember the figure.
It's a terrible number. We've all seen these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was small.
Less than 50% have more than 120,000.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not great. If we're talking about an experiment that started in the early 70s, or excuse me, late 70s, got rolled out to the masses in the early 80s. So we've got 40-ish years of data to look at, and half of people retiring have only about 120,000.
Right.
I don't know. There's certainly strengths to 401ks. I love that they're so readily available. The ability to save for retirement is simple, and the tax savings can be really beneficial. The government really wants us to do it. But there's something obviously amiss, or something we're missing. It's not working as well as we might otherwise think.
Well, and I want to be fair to the hardworking American families out there. The world has gotten very expensive the last couple of years, and I understand. We're seeing more hardship withdrawals from things like 401ks. We know what college expenses are, and if you're trying to help with that, we want to talk sometime about the 529 plans that are offered here in the state of Maine for every child ever born. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah.
But that being said, even just going to the grocery store today, I don't know about you guys, but I'm just buying for a couple of, I can't get out of the grocery store for under $400. So some people are cutting back on their 401k. Somebody comes to you, 45, 50 years old, and you're seeing they're under contributing. What do you do? Do we talk about budgeting, or do we say we need to get more aggressive? What happens when you see people underutilizing their 401k?
So if I see someone underutilizing their 401k, especially 45, 50 years old, I'll ask them, first of all, why? Okay, and if it's a matter of just not being able to afford to put in more, then maybe we should look at the budget and see if there is room. Sometimes there's more room than people think. You just got to cut on the the daily coffee run. There's different things you can do. Sometimes there isn't. Life has gotten tough. You may have a spouse that's no longer working, or now you've got a spouse staying home to take care of the kids because daycare's gotten expensive.
Oh, that's another one too. Daycare.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that part as well. Just things that are really, really expensive today.
Yeah.
But when it's more of a choice, of, enjoying lifestyle now as opposed to saving for that retirement. I mean, it's not up to your employer to tell you to go and save more. You kind of need to learn these things on your own. So how about you, folks coming in? Where do you see? Are they on pace?
Oh gosh, yeah, no, for sure.
Oh,
sorry.
No.
I think I was giving a wrong impression there real quick. No, unfortunately not. I think it's pretty challenging. If you're in your 30s and 40s, you've already got a decade, maybe 2 decades of work history, and if you're not really contributing to your 401k, there's a whole behavioral shift that we have to make. And Spike, you and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
That's not an insignificant thing for people to do, to accomplish. Any behavioral change is difficult. We get a little set in our ways, we get comfortable, maybe things are relatively easy, and gosh, retirement's way down the road. Who cares about that? I'll worry about that later after the Patriots game. So I try to be really sensitive to it. I love...
if you're doing your retirement planning after the Patriots game, you might want to rethink your retirement planning. Let's not do it after the football game. Let's do it during
sure.
awake hours, okay? During the week. But
I like to talk to people, especially, times are really tough. It's so expensive. I'm at $600 a week for groceries.
Yeah.
So, but, all of our, the more years we work, generally speaking, our incomes do start to grow, either through raises or promotions. Maybe we take new jobs. At those moments, that's when I really like to focus on that behavioral change, because you've got a 6% bonus.
Even small percentages. You get a 3% cost of living adjustment to your annual paycheck. Put in 1.5.
That's
do
exactly
it incrementally, but tighten that belt where you can when it comes to saving. Derek, I know that we've got this phone number here. I'm going to put it on you today. We're going to go out to break, but are you willing to look at people's 401ks, even if they can't move their money over to you and help them manage it? Are you willing to do a review to see if they're on track?
Yeah, give us a call and we'll do an analysis of your accounts and see if you're on track. And again, if you're not 59 and a half or you have the older 401k, there might not be much we can do specifically with your 401k until you're old enough, but we're happy to give you an idea of what you have and where you should be going, and certainly give you some advice. So give us a call, 1-877-241-7430, and we're happy to sit down and at least talk with you and see if we can put you in the right direction.
We're going to keep talking about these tools, if you don't mind, when we get back, because it's not just stock funds, bond funds. There's things like target date funds. Why can't we create our own pension with fixed income kind of solutions? We'll discuss all of that when we get back. We will do a review, though, even if you are currently working. Why? Because we know eventually you're going to need to come to the office and find out if you've saved enough. So why don't you start right now, even if you are working? We'll do a 401k review for you. Take a look at what you're doing. Take a look to see if you have opportunities for outside investments as well, to get you on track so you can conquer your own retirement. Call the phone number you see below so you can come on into the office. More Conquering Retirement with Jeremy and Derek right after this.
Our team at Northern Alliance is very diverse in terms of the services that we offer.
We do take a team-based approach.
We carry multiple licenses so that clients can do everything within the Northern Alliance financial team.
If it has anything to do with retirement, that's what we specialize in.
Budget planning, tax considerations, Social Security strategies, risk management, long-term care, Medicare, health planning, as well as legal and estate planning.
We really are a one-stop shop.
There's Lance Gilman, Peter Hansen, Jeremy Barnard, myself. We do have a staff that is great.
In Maine, we have multiple locations to cover the vast array of the state.
You can come in and have a conversation in person. And a lot of people are looking for these days. Things after COVID have changed to more Zoom, phone call sort of things. And we'll do those things, but we appreciate and would rather have you come in person and have a conversation face to face like this.
We're pretty approachable, and we're going to listen to you. We're going to try to determine what your needs, your aspirations, those goals are, and then we're going to do everything that we possibly can to help you meet those goals.
It's lighthearted, it's carefree. We laugh like crazy. An atmosphere that I don't think is common in a lot of other practices.
We were talking about how well the team is bonding together, how similarly we all think in that what we do, we want to actually make a difference.
Average, everyday people helping average, everyday people.
We truly do put the client first.
Our mantra has been, when you take care of people, people take care of you.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement with the team from Northern Alliance Financial. I'm with financial advisors Jeremy Bernard, Derek Huot. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. And we're talking about how our folks, our fellow people here in Maine, are using their 401ks. And I'm saying the 401ks because, unfortunately, we're not seeing nearly as many pension plans anymore. There are still some organizations that do pension plans, very, very few. We do know government and, any of those who carry a gun or a badge, police and safety who protect us, even school teachers. There's all different kinds out there, but fewer and fewer. So for most of us, we have to save into a 401k. Now, I know there's stock funds, bond funds, and then we usually have to spin a dial or put a percentage of how much we want of each one. What about this other thing I see in there now, target date funds? Should I be using a little bit of that one as well? Derek, let me ask you, where do you start with target dates?
Yeah, target date funds, just for our viewers, what that really is it is a fund within a mutual fund within your 401k. And what it does is it allows you to add safety as you get closer to your target date. So, Spike, if you've got a target date fund of 2030, and then if you compare that to a target date fund
Let's
of
call
2040,
it 2090 for me, all right, 2090.
So each year, as we get closer to 2030, that fund is going to incorporate bond holdings into there. So the premise is that, the bond holdings are eventually going to make up close to 40% of your fund, the mutual fund, to add safety. But listen, we know based on what happened last year that bonds aren't going to add the same safety that you think they're going to add.
Yeah, the strange anomaly of last year is that interest rates went up, bond values go down, there was havoc in the markets, and then also panic in the stock market. So both stock funds and bond funds went down. And in fact, I think you guys also reported on your weekly radio show on 4 different stations that I'm not going to enumerate right now, that the target date funds last year had their worst year of record in over 2 decades.
That's correct.
So people thought they were safe, but they really weren't.
Yeah, but now listen, target date funds, for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and they have a 401k, that's perfect. Just put the money in there and let it sit there. But if you're actually looking to get more of an advantage through tactical management, if you're somebody that does it yourself or you want somebody else to do it, there's a lot more options outside of that.
Right, and Jeremy, so I wanted to ask you, brush back on this, because we said a lot of folks will invest up to their employer match. But I think we're leaving a lot of room. I mean, that employer match, it might be 3 or 4 or 5%. So we're talking that there could be another 6 or 8% that you might be able to put in. I mean, isn't it the compounding of interest over time that was that 8th wonder of the world?
Exactly, yes. Yeah, I mean, that's really important to pay attention to. And again, thinking of behavioral change and everything, that compounding interest isn't amazing right away. It's not the 8th wonder right away. It does take a fair bit of time, 20-something years, and then you really start to see those dollars skyrocket, and it becomes much bigger than you otherwise would have imagined. So the sooner we get a jump on that compounding interest, the better. So I definitely want to pay attention to that. You may not feel like you're making a lot of progress or change in your 401k right away. Stick with it. It will be amazing. We have different charts, different ways to illustrate that compounding interest over time. I know, speaking for my own self, when I was in my 30s, I was in some great funds, and it just didn't feel like it was taking off like I wanted it to. And looking on it now, I'm like, wow, that was the best thing I ever did was like just leave it
alone. Yeah.
Obviously, I pay attention to it. We should always be paying attention to our money in the stock market. I'm not saying we have to have PhD knowledge of the stock market by any means, but a general understanding of what's important in any fund. If it's a target date fund, if it's an indexed fund, wherever it is, a little understanding of what we're looking for and making sure that that fund is staying on target.
Another aspect I wanted to ask you about, though, because you said right at the open, one of the advantages, of course, is the tax deferral. We don't have to pay taxes. We can subtract that from our income. So therefore, I always like to put in as much as I can to take that off the taxes. Right. But now we're seeing Roth 401ks. Is this something we want to use? Is this age determinant? Like maybe if we're in our 20s and 30s is a good idea. If we're in our 50s or 60s? And can you maybe explain, Derek, what exactly is the Roth 401k?
Yeah, so the Roth 401k is, get the same advantages of a Roth IRA. And so really what happens is, when you put money in, you're not going to get that tax deduction right away. So, you're paying the taxes up front. But that's going to cook compound interest, and then anything you take out is now tax-free. There is no taxes due. So you can grow that to a nice sizable sum, and you never have to worry about the taxes. So the 401k, the Roth 401k is starting to become more prevalent. And I have, people coming in all the time, and one of the questions I often ask is, do you have a Roth within your 401k? And if they do, the next question they'll ask is, how much do you think I should put in it? I'll always tell them as much as you can afford. It's only going to benefit you in the long run.
Is there any age determinant on it, though? 30s, 40s? So let's say somebody is 55, 60 years old. They're watching this program. They've already got $500,000 saved in their 401ks. They're just hearing about Roth right now. The whole point of putting your money into the Roth is to create a tax-free income bucket for yourself later down the road. You get all of that growth tax-free, but you can't subtract it from your taxes. So is it worth doing it if I'm 55 or 60?
I think absolutely. First of all, it's another opportunity to save. So we'll just focus on that one piece there alone. That's a great situation, saving a little more. And maybe you're not going to get that tax deduction, but the diversification of it from a tax perspective that you're going to achieve in your own retirement is going to add so much more flexibility to your retirement plan, depending on the economic factors once you come to retirement.
Okay, and so can I do both? I mean, let's say my limit is 15, 16, or 18. No, now we're up to like 18 some, and you've got catch-up provisions.
right.
You put up to almost $30,000 a year. Can I split that between both? Give myself a little tax deferral if I want? Can I do that?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's oftentimes what people will be doing within there. The other thing I want to mention with the Roth within the 401k is you're not subject to the contribution limits that you would have from your Roth IRA. So you can put more money and let it cook in that 401k.
I want to stop you right there and explain, because we hear this all the time, and you guys do live event. Someone will come to you and say, "Oh, I'd love to do a Roth, but I make too much money. I can't put into it." Mm-hmm. What does it say? This again. I want everybody in the back row to hear this as well. There are no contribution limits to a Roth 401k?
Yep, and you can make any income doesn't matter. You're not subject to the limitations that way either.
Okay. Because it's something like 140,000 or something, if you're saying somewhere around there.
Yeah,
if you make over that, you can't put into your own Roth IRA. And that also has a limitation around $7,000, something like that. We can bear out the numbers.
Yeah,
but
6,500.
in the 401k, Roth 401k, you're able to contribute it. And same thing, no problem using a target date fund, or is this where you want to sit down with an advisor?
I think so. I mean, even before last year that we spoke of, where everything went haywire in the stock market, even before that, they were doing all kinds of studies. Our industry was on these target date funds, just trying to see, because the concept sounds simple. Like, oh, I'm in a 2030 fund. I don't want to be in a 2050 fund. It's an easy story. But whether or not they're actually recalibrating that portfolio properly and lowering the risk or raising the risk, it's been the subject of a lot of scrutiny, and I think rightfully so. Mm-hmm. The ones that I've seen are not, for the most part, have not performed like people would expect them to perform. So,
I know it's an easy button kind of solution, but you say, I want to retire 2035 or 2038. Right. And I start to think of things like, well, what if I work a year or two longer? That means what happens? So now my risk is lower, or what if I want to retire sooner? So to me, it's not a great solution, even if you know exactly when you want to retire, and then what is going on with the performance inside. So that's one of the things we want to do for you, our viewers. We want to help you do a review, make sure that you're using whatever tools you have at your availability for your retirement properly, especially if you're in that retirement red zone. If you're 6 months, a year, even 2 years, if you're thinking about, if you're close to saying goodbye to your employer, let us do that 401k review for you and make sure that you're using it properly. It's very simple. You can call the phone number down at the bottom of the screen, schedule an appointment from our secure phone line, and you can come into any one of our offices all around the state of Maine that's closest to you, or you can use the QR code. Open up your smartphone, point it at the camera function, and point it down at that QR code down at the bottom of the screen. When you click on it, it'll take you over to a landing page. You can schedule your own appointment. What exactly are the catch-up provisions, and how do we do an in-service withdrawal from that 401k, IRA rollovers, all of that and more in our last segment when we get back right after this.
As a good saver, you've been putting away money during your working years. Studies find that the biggest fear of retirees is running out of money. Market volatility isn't just the downward movement of stock prices, it's the size and frequency of change. The more dramatic the ups and downs, the higher the volatility. This can put savers who are newly retired or a few years away from being retired at greater risk. Today's generation of retirees is not receiving traditional pensions as our parents or grandparents did. Instead, we have retirement accounts such as 401ks or 403bs. These accounts typically expose your money to market risk. The last thing you want right before retirement is to lose a portion of the money you need for income. But how do you turn these accounts into a retirement income? Is it safe to keep all your retirement money sitting in the stock market? The last thing you want is to lose a portion of the money you need for income due to market loss. By working with a financial professional, you can learn how to turn a portion of your savings into an income stream for life and income for the life of your spouse if you're married. We all have moments in our lives when we wish we had taken action sooner. Don't let procrastination reign on your retirement parade. Act now before it's too late. Please call our office to set up your no-cost, no-obligation retirement income review today.
Welcome back to Conquering Retirement with Jeremy Bernard, Derek Huot. I'm your host, Spike Spangle. They are financial advisors right here in the state of Maine, and we're talking about the 401k. How is it going with folks who are using it? One more thing, though. There's a magic number age. You keep saying of 59 and a half. Why is that, and what is that about with the 401k?
At 59 and a half, that is the time when most employers will typically allow you to do what's called an in-service withdrawal. It's a rollover. Okay, it's a rollover while you're still employed and working. And the reason that I believe they allow you to do that is because as you're 59 and a half and you're closer to retirement, this is probably the time when you want to start to manage the risk or get help doing so. And so most employers will allow you to do that. Very simple. We handle these things all the time. We walk, our clients through it, handle the calls, and there's no taxable situation. So they got to understand that. I've get asked often, are they going to be in taxes due? What's this? There's no taxes, and you're simply putting it from one bucket into another. It's just the other bucket, an IRA, is going to have many, many more options.
Okay, and so then you've got an opportunity to either you can help manage it or they can self-direct it, make sure, obviously, that they do it properly. Jeremy, yourself then, so let's say somebody's come in for the planning meeting. You've done the numbers. They've got the income. You're going to help them with long-term care, when and how to take Social Security. They know that they're ready to retire, but they don't want to move that 401k yet. Or say, look, I worked at that employer for 15 or 20 years. It did pretty good. Can't I just leave it there? When do you actually make the rollover for folks, and why?
Yeah, we've run into that every now and again. For the most part, once we do all that comprehensive planning, it makes sense to bring things over because then we can really spread things out and make that plan a reality for people. But there have been some people who like the plan, and if they want to stay there, that's fine. But there are some challenges to that, to be sure. First of all, we want to make sure you understand that portfolio, what you think is good. A lot of people, they have an internal bias to believe that what they're doing and where they've invested their money is good.
Overconfidence bias. Yes, we see that one all the time. I know we read the same books.
Yes, exactly. So with gentleness, we want to share that with people and be like, here are some alternatives that you might want to consider just because what you have, maybe isn't going to serve you as well in retirement like it did during your working years.
I think there's also maybe a little bit of a misconception. Some people think that their 401k plan was free or that there weren't any fees in there or there weren't any costs. So, it came from my employer. Well, if you're no longer employed there, you might not get those breaks. But, Derek, are these things no cost from your employer?
No. And now some of them are very low cost and well worth going into, but I certainly have run into 401ks that were much more costly than the client knew and than I had expected. Yeah. Every once in a while we do. But at the end of the day, it's just we want to give you options. We want to give you the options and the tools, and we want to give you, I might tell you this is one option and this is another. We're not going to just say you need to do this. Everybody's got a different idea how to get you to where you need to go. And one of those ways of doing that is by doing an in-service withdrawal, rollover, and starting to manage the money tactically so we can manage the risk and try to control volatility.
Sometimes when people tell me they don't have any fees in their 401k, I'm like, well, we are looking at a paper statement right now that they mailed to you. I mean, that cost came from somewhere.
Yeah.
And there are internal costs. One of the most frustrating things is that try to figure out what those fees are.
Oh,
they have been coming down over the years, but it's almost impossible to find out what the fees are that you're paying in those accounts.
And 12B1 fees. You know, a lot of these mutual
Excuse me?
funds
Say what?
carry that.
Can you say that into this
So-
year again? 12B1 fees? Explain that one.
Well, you know, a 12B1 fee is a fee. So the target date fund, for example, the mutual fund, can charge this in order to market to other possible participants.
Wait a second. So they're charging me a fee so they can market the fund?
And they don't have to actually put it down. If it's less than about 25 basis points, they don't even have to disclose the fee. It's just assumed.
And as we've said, we know that investments, there are costs, there's management, there's fees,
course, yeah.
but the 401k might not be perfect or as low cost as you think. So again, though, if somebody is working, Jeremy, do you mind doing an analysis? Do you mind even doing that fee analysis?
Oh my gosh,
Taking a look?
I consider it an honor to do that. Anytime anybody invites us into their lives from a financial perspective, it's an honor. It's privileged, sensitive information. So somebody says, here's my 401k statement, we treat that very seriously with confidentiality and professionalism, of course. And I'm happy to look at it and show you the good, the bad, and the ugly that exists in the portfolio. Sometimes I learn things, I'm like, oh, maybe I want to add some of this to some of the other clients that I work with. So I learn things even if there isn't much I can do to help them. Plus, everybody's got a cool story, and I love talking to people and hearing where they come from, where they want to go, and how their life is going so far. So absolutely love to sit down and share
We can
that
do a second
information.
opinion. And,
Yeah.
and Derek, I just always like to ask you, is it ever too late to get started? Is it ever too late to try to catch up, even in your 401k?
It's never too late. And, you know, even if you think it's a lost cause and there's no chance to getting you on track, oftentimes I find that's not the case. And, you know, you're never going to know until you come in. There's no judgment here. You know,
And I think that's one of the things I also enjoy about this entire group. It's like, look, none of us are perfect in whatever version of life we are. And we've made mistakes. We might be behind or feel that we're behind, but you can share that with a team of financial advisors. We're not here to judge you. We want to help you. We want to make sure that you can get your retirement onto the right track. And if you're doing great, we'll pat you on the back and say, keep doing what you're doing. But if we can find ways to help you catch up, we'll also let you know what those are. So do yourself a favor, call the phone number on the screen, come on in for an appointment. When you do, we'll also give you a complimentary copy of the brand new book, Conquering Retirement. Thank you so much for watching with Jeremy and Derek. I'm Spike. The whole team will be back again next week.